The group the Silver Paw, known only as TSP, was introduced to us in Piggy in Book 1, but we only had its real appearance in Book 2. Despite this, they did not have much focus in the plot and we know very little about them, how they lived and how they came to be. And that's why I'm here, to theorize how TSP came to be, show its basis, how the survivors lived, how big the TSP group is, their internal problems, and what can await us in Piggy Intercity. So follow me on this theory and let's see more about TSP. Remembering that this is all just a theory, nothing is confirmed or definitive, they are just ideas that I thought may or may not be true. Besides, I may have forgotten some facts, I'm already sorry about this or any other mistakes. But other than that, let's do it. How did TSP come about? As with everything to do with TSP, we don't have many details about it. But let's see what we can find out. We know that the leader of the TSP is Willow. And from what we can see in the extra chapter of Heist, we can deduce that after the infection started, Willow and Rash escaped from jail, but Rash was soon infected. And with that happens what we see in the final cutscene of Heist, where Willow burns down her old home and finds Tigry, and then they go after Pony. We can say that this may have occurred in the first few days after the infection began. After this union we can deduce that it was when the TSP appeared. Perhaps they found a place and set up a base, or they found a place with survivors and Willow offered to help them and then the TSP was created. But we can't be sure. But we can think that this was in the first week of the infection. Over time, the Willow gathered and found new survivors for her group. Like the already known Kitty, Felix, Pandy, Barry, Philip and Katie. This can be confirmed in a note in the city chapter, where Willow says that she wants to join old friends. But we cannot say that these characters were close friends of Willow, with the only exception of Kitty, who was confirmed in the chapter, Heist. After the group's entire main structure was formed, they began to expand to more places. And so the TSP was created. We have no information about how big the TSP is and what its foundations are. But we imagine it was a large group with several bases spread across Lucella. Some of these bases that we know are the refinery and the factory. At the refinery, if you look closely at the Settlement 6 inches sign, it is actually shown as Settlement 5. The number 6 is visibly faded, showing the number 5. If you look even closer you can see the words, Refinery of Petroleum Lucella, on the sign. This shows us that as far as we know, the TSP has had 6 bases, and the refinery was probably the last, as far as we know. Since Pony didn't know about this base. From what we see, the TSP had a problem at another base, which resulted in its loss, making the refinery become Settlement 5. The factory is the main settlement of the Silver Paw. And we can think about this because in the Heist cutscene Pony is present in the place. And as far as we know, he left TSP 4 weeks after the infection began, and shortly after using the potion on Player and Doggy. What we can deduce about how they lived is little, but let's see. The survivors were likely divided into roles. Some handled security and others did facility work such as cleaning and cooking. But apparently they were somehow forced to carry out these services, as we can see in a note at the refinery. But in short, we can say that they lived doing tasks, looking for resources and exploring places. The internal problems. We have reached the most interesting part. The TSP's internal problems. At various times during Book 2 we can find notes from survivors revealing that the TSP was not perfect and had many problems. But we can also confirm from a letter at the factory that the TSP was good for some time. Where they were really trying to help, but then something happened and things changed. We saw in a letter in the mall in which they thanked Mr. P for giving them opportunities to carry out their plans. And these plans may be what started to cause these problems. This letter seems to indicate that there are also more leaders in the TSP, something like commanders, and Willow is the top leader. based on what we can see in several notes hidden in the chapters. Survivors were forced to work, and those who didn't were likely to be punished. We can see in notes from the refinery, store and carnival that survivors could be abandoned and left behind. We don't know if it was because they didn't fulfill their obligations, or for another reason, such as a lack of supplies that could be occurring. Based on a note from the refinery, it appears that some sort of secret group was forming within the TSP where they wanted to escape and perhaps help others escape as well. At the sewers we can find 3 notes that let us understand that they know a little about insolence, and that going down there was strictly prohibited. On another note, it makes it seem like they wanted to flood the sewers to prevent these things from getting up there. Maybe in Intercity we can find some parts of the sewers flooded? We ended Piggy with many questions about the TSP, but now we hope that our answers will be answered in Piggy, Intercity. But what can we theorize about this? I believe that a rebellion will happen in the TSP, resulting in the group's extinction. Perhaps some survivors will remain in this group. The trigger for the rebellion could happen when the survivors discover that Willow is no longer in Lucella, which would be a huge opportunity for them to start the rebellion. With a rebellion, there could be a conflict between the bases, where some support the rebellion and others want to continue as is. This conflict could reach the main base, which is the factory, and with that, the members we already know and who stayed there, including Giraffe, could be attacked, and as a result we would no longer see some of them. With the fall of TSP, the survivors would set up a new group, which would be the authors of those messages on the walls of the Intercity demo. In addition, they would be the owners of the mystery flag that we saw in a recent post on the Capital's official channel. But this is all just a theory. Thanks for watching.